If we have eyes to see and ears to hear, it seems pretty obvious that we are living in an evil time. It has been my experience that there are lots of people out there who believe that there is darkness and evilness, but they don't associate it with the devil. They see it as just, well, that child wasn't raised by a good family and was influenced in a negative way. Or those government officials simply want more power, which is obviously the case, but they don't realize that that has its roots in the influence of Satan. One of the problems that I think we Americans face today is that we do not believe in the existence of Satan, just as we don't believe in the existence of God. The number of people that have declared themselves atheist is astounding to me. Unfortunately, most people who do not believe that God exists see themselves as a sort of God. It's all about them. It's about their future. They don't care about worship because there's nothing to worship but themselves. So what do? They show homage to themselves by having the good life, making every effort to have a good time, to have a bigger house than the neighbors, to have a nicer car than their friends. Certainly, they don't find the need to seek out a church where they can worship the God that they really don't believe. Or if they're not an atheist, their agnostic basis of their life makes them feel there's no need to even seek out a God. So they don't. We're living in very dark times, both with our nation and the world. We, if we're paying attention, realize that we are on the brink of a third world war, which will not be pretty. If there is a third world war, in all likeliness, it will be a war with nuclear weapons, which will essentially annihilate everyone. I was recently reading where the lack of fuel in the Western world, the civilizations of like England and France and Germany, are so serious that they are preparing, these governments and these nations are preparing for what will probably be a winter that will kill many people because they have no heat. All the while talking about global warming. So we closed down the production of gasoline and oil because, after all, that will bring on global warming, and all the time we face a world where people can't even feed themselves. That the very things that have been necessary for growing our food and raising livestock so that we can all eat are being demonized. I really believe that the demonization is actually coming from the devil. It's a really important thing for us to remember that the scriptures make it clear that the demons have the ability to appear as angels of light. So we who were raised on scary movies where it's pretty obvious who the demons are or the demonically possessed people, because you can see it in their faces, or maybe even the color on the screen that surrounds them. It's demonic looking. But this is all something that we need to think about clearly, that is the devil, does he even care that we believe in him? Of course he doesn't. If we don't believe in Satan, he can do whatever he wants with us, because we won't fear him and we will not be looking for his plots against humankind. So what do? We turn to the God that created us. We turn to this God in repentance for our own sins and our own culpability in what is going on in our world, our darkened world. And we make every effort, with God's help, to be lights to our neighbors and to our friends. And when I say light, I'm talking about the light of Christ that should be emanating through us to those around us. I am saddened by what I see around me. I am saddened that there are people that would look at, say, an Orthodox monk and the way we dress and the way we look as, oh, isn't that a curious little thing of the past? I'm saddened by the fact that in American cities throughout our country have neighborhood churches that are now being used for other uses. In Seattle, I know of one church that is now a Buddhist temple. I know another church that has been turned into a private home. I know another one that is a coffee house. Who would have ever believed that we would come to a time when churches would be closed? We could always look pointing fingers at the Soviet Union and the imploding of churches and the massacre of hundreds and hundreds of bishops, priests, and monastics and faithful believers. We can look at that and we can see that as an evil thing that happened. But we don't see the evilness of what is happening in our own nation, with the marginalization of Christianity, the voice of truth. I remember when President Johnson introduced a bill that made it illegal for a clergyman to preach anything that might be considered political from his pulpit. And the excuse used by this was that if you did do that, the penalty will be that you take a chance of losing your tax exemption. And so what happened? Ministers and priests throughout the country stopped warning their people about what was happening around them. Evil, demonically guided politicians must be ignored because, after all, it's all for the good of everybody. We trust them. We don't trust our priests, we don't trust our churches, but we trust them. But what we must do now is turn our gaze away from the trouble that we find around us and the darkness that we find around us, and pray that God change the hearts of the people of our nation and our world. that the Lord in his great mercy grant peace to all of us and to this world, and that we learn that the best way to avoid a third world war is by having proper dialogue, not saber rattling. The sad thing is that the American military would not be able to survive a World War III. There will be some people that will think, well, how un-American of you to say that. But think about it. Back when World War II started, we had enough industry in the United States that we could immediately turn it over to the war machine and make tanks and planes and bombs. And we had all the technology we needed to do that, but we don't now. We farmed it out. How can we even think about going to war with China when China produces most everything we need as Americans? From what goes into a cell phone and a computer to all the products that are on our shelves. Places like Walmart, I'm told, get most of their goods from China. We are also living in an age when China has been allowed to purchase farmland, often near military installations in this country. Do we honestly think that they're going to be producing food for us? I don't think so. What we really need to do is to return to Christ, to bind ourselves to a faith community and ask God to forgive us. We need to be bold before those around us who do not believe that God exists. One of the sad things, and I have noticed this myself, the times that I have been slightly fearful about saying certain things to certain people for fear that they will be seeing me as a bad person. Oh, look at you. I've actually had people accuse me of being a white supremacist Trumpite. That's the furthest from the truth. But that is what people say when they want to cut you down and destroy any credibility that you have. So my response is to try to make more YouTube videos and write more about some of these subjects, calling my fellow Americans to return to Christianity, to return to Christ, and let the Lord of mercies protect us and our nation and our world. May God make it so. God bless you all.